Hi, everybody, and welcome to English Digest. I'm Pat.
And I'm Erin.
So this article is all about yoga and a kind of unusual, different kind of yoga. But I know nothing about yoga except that you have done some.
I have done
So
some.
I'm going to hand over this kind of introduction to you.
Okay, well, I don't do the kind of yoga that we're talking about today, but I do hot yoga, which is exactly like it sounds. It's hot. You go into a room with about 30 people and they turn the heat up and you do a bunch of yoga positions, and if you think it sounds difficult, you're right. It is.
Yes, this sounds like something, if it happened to me, I'd probably tell them about all the crimes and wrongs that I've committed in my life and say, yes, I stole this thing, I told that lie, I'm a witch, all
Please
of those.
just turn the heat down.
Exactly. Yes, this doesn't sound like exercise as much as it does torture.
Right.
But I guess does it help you sleep and help?
Well, what it does is
things?
it helps you stretch more easily. So
okay,
the
that
heat,
makes sense.
The heat makes you sweat more, which makes your body kind of loosen up a little bit more, and it makes it easier to get into the deeper stretch. And so it doesn't sound like fun, and to be honest, it isn't a lot of fun, but when you get out of the class, you feel great because you've really actually done the best stretching you probably can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's find out what this kind of yoga, aerial yoga, is all about by reading through today's article.
Natural light fills an exercise studio, illuminating strips of brightly colored fabric. A number of men and women use them for support as they dance through the air, moving their bodies into different poses. Though this dreamlike scene sounds like some sort of circus act, it is actually the latest trend in exercise, aerial yoga. Aerial yoga is different from regular yoga in that it uses soft fabric hammocks that hang from the ceiling. These hammocks, which look similar to scarves, are made of a high-density nylon and are strong enough to support over 900 kilograms. Though exercising in the air might seem intimidating, a typical aerial yoga hammock is suspended less than a meter above the ground. However, this height can be adjusted to suit a person's preference. Some poses involve simple stretches with the hammock, while others are aerial adaptations of traditional yoga poses. Many positions include hanging upside down, which is meant to stretch a person's spine. In the skydiver pose, for example, a person is upside down and completely vertical. Their head points toward the floor, while their legs point straight upward. At the same time, their arms lie flat at their sides. The hammock supports the person's weight by looping around their backside and then circling around each of their legs. Whereas both forms of yoga are great for stress relief and for strengthening muscles, aerial yoga provides some additional health benefits. For instance, aerial yoga grants a person more freedom of movement. By the time a person masters basic poses, they will find that they can achieve deeper stretches and have greater flexibility than through traditional yoga. Since the exercise puts yogis in a unique situation, it also requires greater focus. With so many reasons to try this exercise, why not fly high with aerial yoga?
Okay, so that is aerial yoga, and it does sound kind of interesting. Would you try it?
I probably would try it. I'm not sure. I imagine there are some in Taipei, some places you can go, but it sounds like it would still be quite an expensive exercise trend.
Possibly so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's take a look at what we've got here. The article begins with an introduction of the situation, natural light filling an exercise studio. Sounds very nice. And the light illuminates, here we've used the light illuminating strips of brightly colored fabric. To illuminate something means to put light on it, kind of make it shine
bright.
Yeah, so you can see it nicely. And a strip is a long, thin piece of something which has got one narrow edge and one very long.
Right.
edge.
It could be a strip of paper, a strip of grass, not glass, grass.
Yeah, cloth, something like that. So just as long as it's thin at one end and then very long and kind of thin. And in this case, it's brightly colored fabric. Fabric is any kind of cloth or material that's made by weaving strands of things together. Right. So, the T-shirts that we're wearing are made of fabric. Our clothes, all sorts of other stuff is made of getting threads going in different directions. You weave them together and you create clothing, blankets, all sorts of stuff. That is all different kinds of fabric.
That's right. Now, the article tells us what these strips of brightly colored fabric are used for. It says a number of men and women use them for support as they dance through the air, moving their bodies into different poses. So support here means that the strips of fabric are holding them. They're holding them up in the air.
Yeah, making sure they don't fall.
Right.
And then it says, though this dreamlike scene sounds like some sort of circus act, it is actually the latest trend in exercise, aerial yoga. The phrase or word dreamlike means exactly what it looks like a dream. This idea of people sort of flying and floating through the air on brightly colored strips of fabric, that does sound like a bit of a dreamy, natural light, soft music. It's
kind of like
dreamy.
something that would appear in a dream scene in a movie, maybe. Something very, very calming.
Yeah, or it may look a bit like a circus act.
Right. Okay, so a circus is, it's an event that has a group of people, usually with animals, that travel together and they perform tricks and they do different kind of acts for people to entertain people, I guess.
Funny stuff, acrobatic stuff.
You'll see clowns.
Yeah, people very high riding bicycles across wire.
Right.
And in some cases using strips to kind of hang off. Now, I'm sure I've seen, I think it's Jolin Tai. I think she's done this kind of, holding onto strips of cloth and swinging around in videos or live shows. So
interesting.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But in this case, it is aerial yoga. So yoga, the exercise, but done in the air, which is why we use aerial.
Now, aerial yoga is different from regular yoga in that it uses soft fabric hammocks that hang from the ceiling. So, regular yoga, obviously you're on the ground, so that's why we use this phrase in that to show that we're explaining what we said, how what we said before is different from what we're talking about. So aerial yoga is different than regular yoga because regular yoga is on the ground and aerial yoga is in the air, and we use these soft fabric hammocks that hang from the ceiling. Now, a hammock is a long strip of cloth or net that's often used as a bed in the traditional sense. You can hang it between two trees and then lay in the hammock and swing, or you can maybe
attach it to two walls.
Right, attach it to two walls and get in it and hang sort of thing. Here it's attached to the ceiling. So instead of being like a wide hammock, it's more kind like a long hanging hammock.
That's right. And they look similar to scarves. So imagine if you took a scarf, which is basically a strip of fabric, and hung it, so pin the two ends to the ceiling, and then they fall down. So you've got a kind of loop at the bottom and two things. So that's why they look like scarves. And they're made of a high density nylon, which means they're strong enough to support over 900 kilograms, which is a
huge
lot
of weight.
It's like 10 big people almost. So now nylon is a kind of fabric. It's a man-made material. It's tough, but it's not heavy. It's lightweight. It's produced by as fibers. You make these man-made fibers, so that means you can weave clothes and fabric out of it. And it's high density, which means that there's a lot of threads in a small area. Something that's high density has a lot of something in a small area. So high density nylon has a lot of nylon threads in the garment, in the fabric. So that means it's stronger.
That's right. Now you'll see high density materials used in things like ropes and things that need to carry a lot of weight, I guess. It says, though exercising in the air might seem intimidating, a typical aerial yoga hammock is suspended less than a meter above the ground. So intimidating, something that's intimidating makes you feel worried, makes you feel nervous about doing it. You kind of feel afraid or frightened about doing something. It's like when you're faced with a challenge. If that challenge seems really difficult, you might be intimidated by it. Though it might be interesting to do, it's probably going to be harder and it makes you feel worried about doing it.
Yeah, so you'd think, well, how can I do stretches in yoga when I'm in the air?
Exactly.
I might fall off and hurt myself. But a yoga hammock is suspended less than a meter above the ground. To suspend just kind of means to stop something, and here the thing is stopped because it's not gone all the way to the ground. It is held in the air. So it's suspended from the ceiling, which means it's attached to the ceiling, it's dropping, but instead of reaching the floor, it's kind of floating in midair. You could also have a suspended platform, which is either held from above or raised in the air. The point is, it's just in the air. It's not on the ground. It's not on the ceiling. It's somewhere in the middle, and it's stable.
Yeah.
Okay. However, it's not always a meter above or below or a meter above the ground.
That's right.
You can adjust it.
That's right. It says, however, this height can be adjusted to suit a person's preference. So it might not be a meter above the ground. You can adjust it, which means to change it or move it around so that it's a different height. Maybe it's 1.5 meters above the ground. Maybe it's 0.5 meters above the ground. Or if you're used to this and you're a little bit more comfortable, you could move it even higher in the air. I've seen aerial yogis do tricks on hammocks 2-3 meters in the air.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's done to suit a person's preference. Your preference is whatever you prefer. It's the thing you like the most. Your preference for tea might be, I like it with milk and sugar, or with no milk and no sugar. That is your preference. So here, we're talking about your preference for where your hammock is. Whatever is comfortable for you. If you're starting out, you might want it low to the ground. So
1/3 meter off the ground?
If you happen to fall out, you don't fall very far. You might go, I need it to be higher. If you're someone with long arms and legs, you might want it higher so you're not touching the floor when you do the stretches. And the better you get, the more room you'll want to be able to move around and suspend yourself and do some of these deep stretches. Now, we'll get into some of these different kinds of stretches in just a moment, but right now we're going to hand over to our Chinese teacher.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenny. 今天我们看的是第15单元。大家怎么样让自己放松心情？今天要介绍给大家的一个方法是空中瑜伽，英文叫 Aerial Yoga。我们看看空中瑜伽怎么做的。这边一开始就给大家一个情境，提到这间瑜伽教室可跟平常你看到或想象中的瑜伽教室不一样，因为这里呢有各种颜色鲜艳的布料做的彩带，这是怎么一回事？这个地方一开头在介绍这间教室的时候，我们稍微留意一下它的句构啊。它这边提到有一个自然的光线，然后提到 illuminating strips of brightly colored fabric。 好，这个地方逗点后面的 illuminating， 当然我们知道 illuminate 就是照亮，那为什么要 ing？这就是一个分词，当然分词引导出来的修饰语是有修饰功能的，就像一个形容词的功能一样，我们把后半的动词部分就改成了分词作为修饰语用。好，这是第一个句型。然后第二点就是提到这里面教室里有男有女，有一些人他呢就在慢舞当中，他就用这些彩带来支撑他的身体。那这边用到 a number of， 稍微注意一下哦。a number of 这个其实是一个量词，但是我们常常要提醒大家，它后面接的是可数的复数名词，跟 amount 不太一样。那这边讲的是人，当然就是 a number of才对啊。好，那我们来看看，说到这种所谓的空中瑜伽，这可是最新的运动潮流。那它跟普通的瑜伽差别在哪里呢？他说， 真的不一样。在下一段就提到原因，或者是它不一样在哪里。这里用到一个片语 in that。in that 比较特别，因为我们知道 that 好像很少看到介系词会出现在它前面，但是如果你真的看到介系词 in， 也不要怀疑，这句子没有错，但这是一个重要的片语，因为 in that 就相当于我们说因为呢，它用一种悬挂在天花板的这种布料，然后做成了一个吊床。那这个吊床就是你用来做瑜伽的时候需要的道具了。那这个看起来真的蛮特别的，不过你谈到这种吊床，它可是用高密度的尼龙所制成的，而且呢是够坚固，可以承载超过900公斤的重担。看到了吗？这里有一个strong enough， 当你在英文里面要表达说足以怎样，像这边就是它够坚固，坚固到可以怎样， strong enough 再加 to 后面不定词。那介绍了它这些不一样的地方，我们就要来看看到底这个瑜伽是怎么样来做运动的。
We're going to take a short break now, but stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. We're talking about aerial yoga. And so we're going to go right into talking about some different poses you can do in aerial yoga. It's when you hang from the ceiling in a strong fabric that allows you to do different poses in the air. So it says some poses involve simple stretches with the hammock, while others are aerial adaptations of traditional yoga poses. So some of the simple stretches, I would imagine, just
hold the hammock.
Right, hold the hammock, move your legs apart in a certain way, kind of.
Yeah.
If you know yoga poses, you can kind of imagine what that's like. Now, some of them are aerial adaptations. So an adaptation is like a change, a process of changing something to make some of these yoga poses more suitable for the air. You have to change it in a way that makes it more comfortable, I guess.
Yeah, it's changing something for a different medium. We often talk about a movie being an adaptation of a book,
right,
or the other way round. So here it's taking a regular yoga pose and going, well, if this is how you do it on the ground, how we do it in the air? What do we change about the way our body is going to pose?
Mm-hmm. Right, that's right. So, one of the popular positions in aerial yoga involves hanging upside down, which is meant to stretch a person's spine.
Oh, it would as well.
Yeah, I guess. So when you're stretching, this is a lot of what yoga is. To stretch means to spread your body out, to straighten them to their full length. We often keep our arms kind of kept in to our sides. We don't always just move them out the whole way, sort of thing. So when you stretch, you're making your body go to its full length. It's a really nice thing to do in the morning when you wake up.
And you should stretch before you exercise. You've
Right.
got to make sure your muscles are going to go as far as they can go in a nice, comfortable way. You've got
Right.
to stretch them out because you're probably going to stretch them when you exercise. So
Right.
you want them nice and warmed up.
Right.
So you have to do all these stretches before you go and play basketball or run down the track or something like that.
Right.
Here, it's stretching your spine. Your spine is the connected row of bones right in the middle of your body, stretching all the way from your skull and your neck all the way down to the bottom of your back. It's
Right.
that connected. I think there are 20-something bones in the spine.
I'm not
something
really
like
sure.
that.
I don't know.
But we also say backbone. People often say backbone for spine.
Yep.
And your spine contains important nerves, so it's kind of the thing you really don't want to damage or
Right.
break. But stretching it out.
Be careful with those spines, guys.
Yeah, stretching it out is good for you. You'll
Right.
sort of, if you're sitting down all day and then you stand up, you'll maybe kind of get a crack a little bit as the bones move against each other. And that's your spine stretching.
Right. And you know how good that feels. It's a good thing for your body. So if it feels good, do it. All right. So it says in the skydiver pose, for example, a person is upside down and completely vertical. Now, when you hear the word skydive, you think of a person, or a skydiver, you think of a person who's jumping out of a plane. And you do that face first. So you'd go down face first. The air will kind of...
It flattens you out. Now, have you skydived?
I haven't.
I have.
Okay.
So when you skydive, you get a minute of what's called free fall.
Right.
And this is where you can almost swim in the air. You can change your position around, but you might be going head down. You might be going kind of like a swimmer. I like to do a Superman pose. Something like that. And that's the bit where you're just falling and moving. And in this case, they've got people skydiving so they're completely vertical and upside down. If you're upside down, your head's at the bottom and your feet are pointing up, and you're vertical, which is in a complete straight line up to down, or down to up.
The opposite of which would be horizontal, and that's a completely straight line that goes from side to side. So a flat line, I guess.
Yeah, when you lie down, you are horizontal. When you stand up, you are vertical.
Exactly.
Nice and simple.
All right. It says their head points toward the floor while their legs point straight upward. That's an explanation of what the vertical pose would be. And it says at the same time, their arms lie flat at their sides. So you'd think your natural instinct would be to hang your arms down. But in this pose, you have to keep them up next to your body. It doesn't sound very comfortable.
No, and it also sounds like my head is pointing straight at the floor. My arms are by my sides. I mean, if one slip and my head is going to dive into the floor. This does sound a little bit frightening to me.
But don't worry, they were not going to do that because the hammock supports the person's weight by looping around their backside and then circling around each of their legs. Now, when you loop something, you make something go in a loop or in a circular shape. So this strip of fabric is looped around your backside. Your backside is another word for butt, I guess.
Yes, bottom, bum.
The part of body that you sit on,
Another
I guess.
word beginning with A, which we're not going to say on air, but your bum.
Okay, so this loop of fabric, or this fabric, is looped around your backside. Okay, so it's holding you there, but it's also looped around each of your legs. So there's 3 loops in total.
Okay.
There's one around your backside or your body, and then there's one loop around each of your legs, and they hold you in place. So you have to sort of step into the hammock very carefully here before you can
turn upside
down into this position.
Again, this still sounds like something that you might do if you wanted somebody to tell you all of their crimes.
Right.
I'm going to hold you upside down until you tell me where the money is, kind of thing.
But it makes your spine feel really great after you're done.
Yeah, let's move on to the why would you want to do this? The article says, whereas both forms of yoga are great for stress relief and for strengthening muscles, aerial yoga provides some additional health benefits. So yeah, that's why people do yoga. It relieves their stress, it makes them feel better, it gives them a good stretch, and it strengthens their muscles. To strengthen, that's a verb, something means to make it stronger. And that's what you do with your muscles by making them work, by forcing them to stretch very far, to hold up bits of your body. Actually, what you're really doing is you're damaging them. You're breaking your muscles. But when they reform, when the cells repair themselves, they know the kind of job they're going to be doing, so they come back stronger. That's how actually getting muscle works. You destroy it, and so when it rebuilds, it's bigger and better.
No, I did not know that. That's very interesting.
There you go.
Okay, well, aerial yoga is not just about strengthening muscles or providing stress relief. It provides some additional health benefits as well. So additional means added to, more than what you expect to have. So extra, I guess, would be another word you could do. And a benefit is an advantage or an improvement on what you're doing in some way. So an additional health benefit might be it's good for your lungs, or it's good for your skin, or something like that.
Yeah, it's adding something that makes you better, makes you feel better, does something good for you.
Yes.
Here's an example. For instance, aerial yoga grants a person more freedom of movement. The verb grant is basically the same as to give somebody something, to let somebody have something. So here, because you're in the air rather than on the floor, you get more movement. If you're on the floor, you can't move down. You're always going to be limited by whatever floor you're sitting or standing or kneeling on. But if you're in the air, you can move in every possible direction, up, down, sideways, left to right. So there's nothing limiting you and where you move, so you get more freedom of movement, which means that you can stretch more muscles, try different poses, relax in different ways.
That's right. Okay, so by the time a person masters these basic poses, these ones that they learn right at the beginning, they will find that they can achieve deeper stretches and have greater flexibility than through traditional yoga. So all of this freedom of movement gives you a greater flexibility, which is just the ability to bend or move more easily. So a flexible straw is a straw that bends at the top.
Yep.
And a flexible body is a body that can bend more easily.
Yep, and since the exercise puts yogis, that's people who do yoga, in a unique situation, a situation like nothing else, it requires greater focus, which is great for yoga or yogis because that focusing and concentrating and all that sort of thing, that's part of yoga.
That's right.
So with so many reasons to try this exercise, why not fly high, get in the air with aerial yoga? It does sound pretty good when you put it that way.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, we've reached the end of our article, so we're going to hand over to our Chinese teacher one more time, then be back to say goodbye.
怎么做运动呢？接下来就说明了我们所谓的 aerial yoga 空中瑜伽，它呢是利用这些吊床来做简单的伸展。不过提醒大家，这个吊床可能跟大家平常想象的吊床不一样，因为毕竟这可是一些彩带，那这个彩带呢成为支撑你身体的这种支柱。那我们来看它有进一步说明哦，你用这种吊床来做伸展，可是有一些可能就不是了。这个 some while others， 注意到句子里面两个前后的对照性，中间的 while 其实是关键字，因为我们知道 while 它的功能上，当连接词的功能里，有的时候就是讲前后的对照，前者是怎样，而后者有些又是怎样。那我们看他说后者呢讲的可能就是比较像有些传统的瑜伽姿势，然后你去把它改编而已。那谈到这些瑜伽的种种的动作，接下来呢我们就来看瑜伽它基本上到底有什么好处，这也就是最后这一段要跟大家说明的。但是最后这一段里面你看到它开头 whereas， 这又是一个重要的连接词。这个 whereas 其实呢基本上它的语气上也是要来表达一种对照性，就是前者跟后者当中就有点像我们刚刚提到的 while 一样。我说前面啊它大概是讲到空中瑜伽，讲到一般瑜伽，这两个其实都可以帮你释放压力，都可以强化你的肌肉。不过后面就要有一个对照的说法咯，后面就告诉你，不过啊空中瑜伽它可是有一些额外的好处。所以 whereas 这种字我们可以翻成尽管，它讲得出来前后有一种对照不同。他说有一些额外的好处，他就举例给你听。因为空中瑜伽呢它可以让你的活动更加自由。那你也会发现说比起这种传统的瑜伽，你可能用这种空中瑜伽可以完成更深度的伸展。我们来看看 这句话啊，这里有一个片语 by the time， 他说这个 by the time 其实本来我们在时间上来说就有点像讲一个截止线一样，就是说到那个时候为止啊，到那个情况的时候，所以这边就是告诉你，等到你呢如果是掌握了你的基本姿势，然后你就会发现说，诶，这个空中瑜伽哦，能够让你完成更深度的伸展。所以注意到 by the time 这样子的对于时间的说法，到什么时候为止，到什么时候的情况。 OK， 好，我们今天的讲解就到这边，我们下次见。
So that is the end of our article. I have to say, I've never really felt tempted to do yoga, but doing it in the air does sound kind of fun. You know, it's almost like being able to fly.
Right. I would suggest if you're going to try aerial yoga, maybe trying a traditional yoga class first, so you can get an idea of what the basic poses are before you start doing them in the air.
But I want to fly.
I feel like if you tried yoga a couple of times, you'd actually really like it.
Maybe.
It does make you feel great after, and if you're like me and you think too much, it does really take your mind off of other things and puts your mind just into your body, which is really calming. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. There you go. Benefits of yoga. Thanks for listening to us today for English Digest. I'm Pat.
And I'm Erin.
We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.